Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Scholarships Recognition Ceremony, Honor Scholarships Recognition Ceremony. I'm Bruce Gilbert. I'm the chairperson of the History Department. It's always a personal pleasure to welcome students, faculty, parents to this event. I was just telling Dr. Ingram, I don't know how many of these we've had consecutively, but I know there was at least one of these, and there's been one consecutively, except for the pandemic, since 1974. And probably we could go back farther than that. So this is a milestone event for our department. Before we begin the program, our coordinator here will be Dan Ingram. He will be speaking on this in a moment. But let me introduce our faculty who are in attendance here today, so you know who these folks are when they're announcing the awards. Let me start with this observation. The History Department is very proud of the fact that it is one of the very, very few departments in the university that has two distinguished professors. Two distinguished professors. One of our distinguished professors is here today, and I will introduce these faculty to you. Just hold your applause. They're all standing. And one of our distinguished professors is here today. She is Dr. Nicole Etchison. And Dr. Nicole Etchison came here in 2005. Her field of specialty is the sectional conflict of the mid-19th century in the United States. She holds the position of endowed chair of the Alexander, I always get this wrong, Alexander M. Bracken Endowed Chair in American History. And like I said, she is one of our two distinct professors. Dr. Christopher Thompson, professor. Dr. Thompson is a specialist in the history of France, and particularly in the history of the famous bicycle race at Tour de France. Dr. Max Felter-Cantor, associate professor, also the assistant chair of the department. His specialty is African American history, primarily in the past 50, 60 years. Dr. Slava Dimitriev, if you'll stand please. Dr. Dimitriev, associate professor, is specializing in the ancient world. He's also the coordinator or the director of our Ancient Studies interdisciplinary program. Dr. Michael Gerlia. Dr. Gerlia came here 2 years ago as an assistant professor and, more importantly, director of our social studies education program. Approximately 2 out of 3 of our majors are majoring in social studies teaching. That's approximate, that's not exact, that's approximate. But Dr. Gerlia has a major responsibility, of course, as the director of that program. And Dr. Ed Krasminski, associate teaching professor. Dr. Krasminski's specialty is history of American sports. And if you're interested, he's doing an online course on the history of the Olympic Games here shortly. So those are our faculty who are here today who will be presenting the awards. And now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Dan Ingram. And Dan, I can get you over here so I can see you. Dan is associate professor. His specialty is early American history and the history of indigenous peoples. So you know who Dan is, and he is the coordinator of today's program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gilhood. Very happy to be here, and I'm even happier to see all of you come out for this event. My name is Dan Ingram. As Dr. Gilhood mentioned, I study early American history. I've been a teacher in the history department for about 14 years now, and I think I've been to every one of these except for the couple that were canceled for the pandemic. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really pleased to welcome so many of our students and their families and friends to our annual Honor, Scholarships, and Recognition Ceremony. This event's an especially happy one for all of us in the History Department. Our students are among Ball State's highest achievers, and we're extremely proud of their accomplishments. This afternoon, we'll recognize students who have excelled in numerous areas of study, both in history and in social studies teaching. Preparation. We'll also recognize students who've been awarded prestigious scholarships and prizes, some of which are named in honor of longtime benefactors of the History Department. We will also introduce you to people who work behind the scenes in the history department, our undergraduate teaching fellows, and our front office student workers. These are indispensable people. We can't do without them at all. They keep our department running on time and on budget. And finally, we're going to take a moment to celebrate the graduating students who are in attendance today. Before we begin, here's a quick note on procedure. As the names of individual students are called by members of our faculty, students should come forward to receive their awards and be congratulated by Dr. Bruce Gilhood, the chairperson of the Department of History. We would also appreciate it if students being recognized would gather at the front of the ceremony as the ceremony concludes, or after the ceremony concludes, so that we can take further photographs. Okay, so let us begin by recognizing our social studies teaching majors who were placed in teaching positions this year. And to get things rolling, let's welcome our first presenter, Dr. Chris Thompson.
Thank you, Dan. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I just want to add a comment that's not in the script. This is the most meaningful event that we do every year because the most important thing that an organization can do is to recognize excellence and high levels of achievement, and that's what this event is intended to do, of course. So I really appreciate you being here, despite the fact that the NCAA women's final is in. And I think that Hoosier State is kind of a basketball state. I've only been here 28 years, but I can pick that up. Okay, we're going to recognize the public history interns. Each year, the Department of History places public history majors in internship positions. These internships provide recipients with a broad range of professional experiences in a variety of settings. This experience is designed to prepare students for the diversity of career opportunities in public history. The public history interns for the period from spring 2023 to the present are as follows. Kenneth Dietz, who interned at the Society of the War of 1812 in spring 2023. Kathleen Donahoe has been interning at the Minnetrista Center since spring 2023. Thomas Fuller, who interned at the Limberlost State Historic Site in spring 2023. Divine Holmes, who interned at the NFL Film Archives in spring 2023. Ryan Melbert, who interned at the Indiana Department of Natural Resources in their Department of Historical Preservation and Archaeology in spring 2023. Samantha Shepard, who interned at the Indiana Department of Administration and the Indiana Archives and Records Administration in spring 2023. Will Grappenthien, who interned at the Westchester Township History Museum in summer 2023. Austin Keller, who interned at Indiana Landmarks in summer 2023. Zoe Olesker, who interned at the Michigan Maritime Museum in summer 2023. Katrina Partlow, who interned at the Indianapolis Children's Museum in summer 2023 and now is at the Seeger Archives of the Built Environment. Jake Bickel, who interned in summer 2023 at the Indianapolis Children's Museum, and Andrew Simmons, who interned at the Museum of the Soldier in summer 2023. We're now going to present the awards for the prize winners at our annual history conference, Student History Conference. These annual awards are given to the history students who presented the best papers as selected by the members of the Student History Conference Committee at our department's annual Student History Conference. This event took place on February 23rd, 2024, and it was a resounding success. Students from Ball State, the University of Southern Indiana, Indiana University Bloomington, Millikan University, and Western University of Ontario presented at 9 panels featuring 29 student papers. In addition, public history students presented at a public history internship showcase. I would ask that the present recipients stand to be recognized at this time. The winner of the best paper by a graduate student is Mabel Gardner for her presentation, German and Free French Propaganda During World War II, Mabel is not present today, but I imagine she's standing wherever she happens to be. The winner for the best paper by an undergraduate student is Kathleen Donahoe for her presentation, Hoosier Homespun, the Gender Division of Textile Production Labor in Early 19th Century Indiana. The two undergraduate research paper honorable mentions go to Maggie Jones for her presentation, These Unhappy Princes, an analysis of the 1674 Princes in the Tower urn in relation to Charles II's Restoration emotional regime. Maggie is not present today, but I think you can still recognize. And the other honorable mention is Katrina Partlow for her presentation, Publishing, Producing, and Pioneering the Representation of Latinx Women in Southwestern American Media from 1840 to 1920. And finally, the graduate research paper honorable mention goes to Zachary Long for his presentation, The Phantom Fifth Column, a historiography of the Japanese-American internment decision. Zachary could not make it today. He's got family obligations. Our next presenter is Dr. Edward Przybinski.
Hello and welcome to all of you. I'm presenting the award for the recognizing the officers in the History Club. I would like to recognize them. It's an organization open to students who have an enthusiasm for history. The club sponsors various projects during the year to promote, an interest in history and to create a feeling of community within the history department. At this time, I would like to recognize the officers. This year's officers are President David McDowell, Vice President Will Callan, Secretary Anika Charlo. Unfortunately, they are unable to attend today. I imagine they are rooting on Caitlin Clark. Next, this is an honor to recognize these three students who serve as history student assistants. I'm extremely familiar with what they do. Each semester, the history department depends upon a few multi-talented student assistants. They help the department staff keep the office running smoothly and our web presence active. I can assure you they do a lot more than that, especially when I enter the history department room. They serve not only as helping with computer problems that I have made, usually requiring me to plug in my computer. Also serve as a child psychologist when I come in to calm me down. So they are incredibly important to the running of the history department. This year's student assistants are Ella Large, Lily Anderson, and Natalie Moulton. They cannot be present with us today, I imagine because they are so sick and tired of looking at history professors that they need the day off. Our next presenter is Dr. Daniel Ingram.
Thank you, Ed. Each year, the Department of History awards several graduate assistantships to meritorious students pursuing a master's degree in history. I keep pretending to myself that I can actually read without these things. One of these days, I'll just admit it. These assistantships are competitive and provide recipients with a broad range of professional experiences, from teaching to research, which are designed to prepare students for a variety of history-related careers. Our graduate assistants for 2023-2024 are Sierra Boyes, Kaylin Crumpton, Kenny Dietz, Peyton Holland, Samantha Kidder, and Keegan Mixdorf. We couldn't get by without it. There are two parts to education, of course: the expansion of the mind through encountering new cultures and ideas, and preparation for contributing to society. The Department of History's Master of Arts program does both of these things. Students can follow a course-based program, a thesis track, or any of three specializations: digital history, history teaching, or ethnohistory. That's my field. Today we would like to recognize the students that have graduated with a master's degree in history over the last decade and show you where they are now. Most of them cannot be with us today, obviously, because they're off working and doing great things in the world. These are only a few of the 50-plus students who have graduated in that time period, and they're employed in many different career paths. So, for example, Emily McGuire, who graduated in 2023, is a project manager at the Indiana State Library. Jamie Reeder, who graduated in 23, is an architectural field surveyor for the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. Corey Balkenbush, who graduated in 23 as well, is education coordinator at the Allen County Fort Wayne Historical Society. J.B. Bilbrey, who graduated in 19, is a communications specialist for the College of Sciences and Humanities here at Ball State. Tarek Robin is also employed at Ball State. He graduated in 2018, and he's an academic advisor here at the college. Lisa Hensel, who graduated in 2016, is visitor services manager at Minnetrista. Andrea Eads, who graduated in 2021, a social studies teacher at the Excel Center in Muncie. Nathaniel Pass, who graduated in 2015, is a captain in the U.S. Army Signal Intelligence Corps. And Abigail Wachs, who graduated in 2020, is a branch office administrator at Edward Jones in Indianapolis. So you can see that our MA students do a wide variety of things. Of course, our program has been effective in preparing students to continue as advanced scholars as well in PhD programs. Here are a few of the students who continue their studies at the most advanced level. Sierra Boyce is starting her EDD program in fall 2024 here at Ball State University. Kathy Curtin Johnson, who graduated in 2022, is a PhD candidate at Purdue University. Frank Lockenpo, who graduated in 2018, is a PhD candidate at Penn State. Katie Evans, who graduated in 2018, is a PhD candidate at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Noel Soucis, who graduated in 2018, is a PhD candidate at Loyola University. And I got some news on some older graduates this year who are actually two students who actually now have tenure track positions as teaching professors. So congratulations to all of these people who are taking what we're helping them with. I always like to say that they teach us more than we teach them, and are running with it out there in the world. Big round of applause for them. Okay, and now to give away some money. Through the generosity of Mabel and Lawrence Hurst, the History Department has been able to aid worthy history majors in the pursuit of their educational and vocational goals. This year, there are two recipients of the Hurst Scholarship. I would ask that they come forward after their names are called to receive a certificate of recognition. Our two recipients of the Hurst Scholarship this year are Emily Loney and, I'll let Emily come up in her first, and Hallie Pressler. When I mentioned J.B. Bilbrey, one of our master's graduates earlier, I should point out that he doubles as a photographer. Our next presenter is Dr. Michael Gurlia.
Hello, folks. I am briefly here first going to recognize the Department of History undergraduate teaching fellows. Each year, the Department of History employs undergraduate workers to assist faculty in teaching their introductory courses. Usually, these students are nominated by faculty who have been impressed by their content knowledge and their organizational skills. The undergraduate teaching fellows do a variety of tasks, from distributing handouts and taking attendance to marking assignments and holding review sessions. Their work is diverse and essential. The 2023 and 2024 History Undergraduate Teaching Fellows are as follows. Hannah Allen, KJ Amerpole, Lars Arsenault, Ethan Bravo, Gavin Fisher, Griffin Hamilton, John Hampton, Nikki Harmeyer, Leah Henry, Catherine Huddleston, Emily Loney, Toby Murray, Ryan Natras, McKenna Poindexter, Hallie Pressler, Barry Ramage, Carol Stout, Jason Thomas, and Raymond Wyatt. Let's give it up for these teachers. Now, my name is on this next page, but I think I'm going to let Dr. Felker Cantor present this award, as it has something to do with his class.
Thanks, Mike. I wasn't planning on being here because I got in late last night from a book talk. So, but the, where am I? The prize honors, the Carter G. Woodson Prize honors the great contributions that Dr. Carter G. Woodson made to African American history as a professor, scholar, founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. He's also the father of what we now call Black History Month, so starting in the early 20th century. He had an unswerving commitment to intellectual honesty and academic excellence. And so this prize is actually awarded to the student who gets the top grade in the course History 210, Introduction to African American History, during the previous year, because we award it at the end of the year, and I teach it every spring. And so last year's award recipient was Griffin Hamilton. Griffin, are you here? He's already received the money, so but I think we have a certificate. So we'll give a round of applause to Griffin. I don't know if he's here. And our next presenter is Nicole Etchison.
Good afternoon. It's always good to see everybody here for these awards. I'm presenting the Sharon Seeger Women's History Fund Award through the generosity of Dr. Sharon Seeger, an historian of American history who taught in our department. These prizes celebrate the best essay and creative project from Ball State University investigating the history of women, gender, and/or sexuality. These prizes are open outside of the history department. People from around the university can apply. This year's recipient of a prize from the Sharon Seeger's Women's History Fund is Katrina Hartlow. Katrina is receiving this for her senior thesis, Publishing, Producing, and Pioneering, the Representation of Latinx Women in Southwestern American Media from 1840 to 1920, which you'll recall already won a prize. Congratulations. Now I'm going to present the awards to honor students completing their theses. It seems especially appropriate to recognize the academic achievement of these students in the Honors College as they near the completion of their undergraduate studies. Several students have completed or will complete a senior honors thesis this year in the field of history or with a history faculty member. We would like to recognize the following seniors and their faculty directors. The first is Tyler Cavender, supervised by Dr. Felker Cantor. Is Tyler here? Then the next two I'm actually supervising in History 470 this semester, Lars Arsenault, who is deeply influenced by Dr. Felker Cantor, is working on Reconstruction era convict labor, and Sky Mendez, who I know is working on the memory of the lost cause and as it was perpetuated at the United Dollars of the Confederacy. I don't think either Lars or Sky is here, but I guess we'll give them a round of applause. And Dr. Krasmensky will carry on.
The award I'm presenting now is the Morton and Linda Rosenberg Scholarship. The History Department is pleased to assist worthy history and social studies teaching majors in the pursuit of their academic and career goals. This scholarship is dedicated to students who exhibit substantial volunteerism and community engagement, both on campus and in the wider community. The department would like to recognize this involvement alongside solid academic standing by presenting the recipient with a certificate. This year's recipients of the Rosenberg Scholarship are Quentin Brizendine, the other recipient is Jackson Fennis. Big round of applause. Our next presenter is boss man, Dr. Bruce Gilhood.
Thanks, Ed. The Jack Walker Scholarship in History was established by friends and colleagues of Dr. Jack Walker, one of the co-founders of an orthopedic medical practice in Muncie that is now known as Central Indiana Orthopedics, PC. Dr. Walker enjoyed a lifelong interest in the study of history, especially in the history of the founding of the United States. The purpose of the Walker Scholarship is to provide a scholarship to undergraduate students who have a particular interest in the founding era of American history. Eligible students include undergraduates who are majoring either in history or social studies education. And if I can just move sideways for a second. My wife and I have two children. They're both boys. They're grown now, but they were both patients of Dr. Walker's, and both of them are able to walk straight, really, because of him. So this is a kind of a special occasion for me to be able to recognize Jack. This year's recipient is Alex Costello. Is Alex here? And our next presenter is Dr. Slava Dimitrieva.
Good afternoon. Childress Fellowships. Through the generosity of Dr. Clifford Childress and the Childress Family Fund, the History Department helps both the history majors and graduate students pursue their educational and vocational goals. Recipients receive a Childress Fellowship that provides tuition assistance for books and material grants. We wish to recognize the students who received Childress Awards this year and ask that they come forward after their names are read to receive a certificate of recognition. This year, there are 4 recipients of Children's Fellowships, and they are Kea Combs, Amelia Dorsey, Leah Henry, and Alexis Logan. Well, it is also my pleasure to announce the award of Stephen and Beatrice Brademas Scholarship. Well, the Stephen and Beatrice Brademas Memorial Scholarship is awarded to outstanding incoming freshman students who intend to major in either history or social studies education. and have a particular interest in either European or world history. Many students hold this award for the length of their degree. This year, the recipient is Luke Prior. Unfortunately, Luke is unable to attend, but we might give him a round of applause. Our next presenter is Dr. Bruce Gilford.
The Anastasios and Sophia Kumalidi Scholarship is intended to encourage the study of classical cultures that have shaped our history, but is not limited to studies of these cultures. Those eligible are entering freshman students, transfer students, or current students who plan to major in or are majoring in history or social studies education. These students must have grade point averages over 3.0. The scholarship is renewable up to a total of 4 years, as long as the student continues to meet the stated criteria. This year, the recipient is Caleb Antonacci. Please come forward and accept your certificate. That's so bad.
Thank you.
Our next presenter will be Dr. Christopher Thompson.
Dr. Lawrence Birkin came to Ball State in 1989 and taught here until the spring semester of 2003, when his death robbed students and colleagues of a deeply committed teacher, mentor, and friend. Dr. Birkin was a prolific scholar, publishing 2 books and some 24 articles in modern German history, European intellectual history, and Jewish history. For 14 years, his intense curiosity, innovative mind, and uncompromising pursuit of excellence inspired his students and colleagues to be more creative and rigorous in their own work. In addition to undergraduate and graduate seminars in his fields of specialization, Dr. Birkin introduced thousands of students to history in his West in the World survey. He continually revised its content and in 1999 published his own textbook for the course. The Lawrence Birkin Memorial Scholarship Award is presented to the graduate student with the highest overall grade point average. The recipient must be pursuing a master's in history and must have taken at least half of his or her coursework at Ball State. The scholarship is to be applied to the student's tuition or books. The recipients of this year's Birkin Memorial Scholarship Award are Zachary Long and Keegan Nixdorf. Unfortunately, Zachary could not be present today, as I mentioned earlier. Keegan is here, which is great. Our next presenter is Dr. Michael Gurdian.
The Dwight W. Hoover Scholarship Fund for Graduate Studies in History was established by Dr. Joanne and Dr. Richard W. Kicksmiller and is sponsored by Dr. John R. Kreis in honor of Professor Emeritus of History Dwight D. Hoover. Dr. Hoover taught in our department from 1959 to 1991. He was a strong researcher and especially interested in community history. This scholarship supports outstanding Ball State graduate students who show a special interest in and potential for research in the United States and abroad. The 2023 and 2024 Hoover Scholarship recipients are Kenny Dietz and Peyton Hall. Because he's here, I'm going to let Dr. Felker Cantor pinch hit for me again.
Might as well put me to work, right? So the John H. Hannaford and Everett W. Farrell Scholarship. I believe this is the first time we've given this out. So it's a new scholarship that commemorates the dedication of these long-serving Ball State University professors to the support of traditionally underrepresented students, in the history department and the university community more broadly. This scholarship is open to undergraduate students from underrepresented populations, majoring in history with a minimum GPA of 2.5 and who have a financial need. And this year's recipient of the John H. Hannaford and Everett W. Farrell Scholarship is Barry Ramage. And he is a phenomenal student. He's in my class right now. So, congratulations.
And in my class.
The next presenter is Dr. Christopher Thompson, again.
Say it with more enthusiasm, please. We are now moving on to a section of memorial scholarships that were established in honor of past members of the history faculty. The following 4 scholarships, the Stokel, the Rippey, the Schmidt, and the La Follette, share the same requirements. The recipient must be a history major or a social studies teaching major, concentrating in history. The student must have completed at least one history course and must have taken at least half of his or her coursework at Ball State. With that in mind, let's move on to the first award. The first of these scholarships is named after Dr. Althea Stokel. As an expert in American colonial history, Dr. Stokel was a member of the Ball State University History Department from 1960 until her death in 1978. She is credited with rescuing thousands of Delaware County historical documents from destruction when the county's courthouse was razed in 1966. She had the documents transported to Ball State, where the staff and students organized them into a workable collection under her supervision. In recognition of her contribution, the Delaware County Archives collection at Ball State was renamed the Althea Stokel Archives. In addition to her work in local archives, Dr. Stokel was the chair of Ball State's Indiana American Revolution Bicentennial Committee. She was also chair of the Muncie Historic Preservation and Rehabilitation Commission, and as such worked with the Muncie City Council to create the Emily Kimbrough Historic District in 1978. The Althea Stokel Memorial Scholarship Award is presented to an outstanding freshman student. I would ask that the recipient please come forward after hearing her name is read, to receive a certificate of recognition. This year's recipient of the Althea Stokel Memorial Scholarship Award is Reagan Spray. For 21 years, until his death in 1980, Dr. N. Merrill Rippey was a member of the Department of History at Ball State University. A specialist in Latin American history, Dr. Rippey was the author of numerous articles, monographs, and pamphlets on Mexico and other Latin American countries. He and his wife, Dr. Frances Rippey, edited Forum, a journal published by Ball State. Moreover, he was president of the Midwest Latin American Studies Association, president of the Ball State chapter of the American Association of University Professors, and the president of the Muncie Public Library Board of Trustees. The Merrill Rippey Memorial Scholarship Award is presented to the sophomore student with the highest overall grade point average. I would ask that the student come forward to receive a certificate of recognition after his name is called. This year's recipient of the Merrill Rippey Memorial Scholarship Award is Raymond Wyatt. To whom he was assigned as a teaching assistant must be incredibly grateful. Lester Frederick Schmidt was a member of the Ball State History Department for 23 years, from 1956 until his death in 1979. His field of expertise was American social and intellectual history. During his tenure here, nearly every doctoral student at Ball State was exposed to his 600-level seminar in the social and intellectual history of the United States. He was commissioned by the Dictionary of American Biography to write a biography of Frank Clayton Ball, one of the founders and presidents of the Ball Corporation. For 13 years, Dr. Schmidt served as editor of the Proceedings of the Indiana Academy of the Social Sciences. In that position, he was frequently praised for his craftsmanship and professionalism. The Lester F. Schmidt Memorial Scholarship Award is presented to the junior with the highest overall grade point average. I would ask that the student come forward to receive a certificate of recognition after her name is called. This year's recipient of the Lester F. Schmidt Memorial Scholarship Award is Carol Stout. And she should have presented the previous award, but I had retina detachment and reattachment surgery, so I don't always see everything clearly. And so I'm not blinking inappropriately for all of you.
I think I've just been cheated out of merit points. For 40 years, Dr. Robert R. LaFollette was the head of the Social Science Department at Ball State. Dr. LaFollette came to Ball State in 1921 to head a two-person department. However, when he retired in 1961, the department numbered 25. In addition to his leadership as department head, Dr. LaFollette served as editor of the Indiana Social Studies Quarterly and established the Phi Gamma Mu Social Science Honorary Society on the Ball State campus. Believing that films offer an excellent educational opportunity, he instituted the Summer Film Forum that for many years bore his name. In honor of his many contributions, in 1967, Ball State University named its largest complex of student housing the Robert LaFollette Residence Hall. And you'll note Dr. Thompson gave it a fancy French pronunciation, but my sister was a Ball State grad, and I always heard LaFollette growing up. The Robert R. LaFollette Memorial Scholarship Award is presented to the senior with the highest overall grade point average. I would ask that the student come forward to receive a certificate of recognition after their name is called. And this year's recipient of the LaFollette Memorial Scholarship Award is Hallie Pressler. The Philip M. Mayfield Scholarship recognizes the career of Dr. P. Miller Mayfield, who was a member of the history faculty at Ball State from 1955 to 1983. Dr. Mayfield specialized in the history of Great Britain and was known for his numerous interactions with his students. The scholarship is open to any student pursuing a degree in history. I would ask that the student come forward to receive a certificate of recognition after her name is called. This year's recipient is Emma Hoff. And apparently Emma is unable to be with us today. The William G. Idson Scholarship recognizes the career of Dr. Idson, who was a member of the history faculty at Ball State from 1966 to 2001. Dr. Idson was a specialist in the Civil War and Reconstruction and was also chairperson of the department from 1981 to 1985. The scholarship is open to any student with a major or a minor in history. This year's recipient is Luke Pryor, who won previous award, but unfortunately Luke is unable to attend. We'll give him a round of applause. And our next presenter is Dr. Michael Gurlia.
The Jonathan Teresa Weekland Scholarship Fund in History was established by Dr. Mark Raby and his wife, Martha M. Mark is a former student of Dr. Weekland's. He and Martha M. worked with Dr. Weekland at the BSU London Center in 1974 and 75. The Rabys therefore have established the scholarship in honor of Professor Emeritus of History John Weekland and his wife, Teresa. Dr. Weekland taught and published in the field of medieval and early modern European history, particularly in the history of the Catholic Church. Teresa Weekland, a native of Hungary, taught French and German and has been an active in volunteer work for women's groups. The scholarship supports Ball State upperclassmen pursuing a major within the Department of History who maintain a GPA of at least 3.2. First preference on this scholarship is given to female students. Having their Weekland scholarships renewed this year are Hannah Allen, Dr. Slava Dimitrov.
Each year, the History Department recognizes its outstanding juniors. The recipients are history majors or social studies teaching majors, concentrating in history with an overall GPA of 3.75 and an outstanding record in history. The selection is based primarily, but not exclusively, on the student's total grade point average. Please come forward after your name is read. This year's outstanding juniors are Hannah Allen, Tavares, Marisa Butcher, Alexandra Castello, Amelia Dorsey, Edwards, Peyton Blessing, Leah Henry, Gary Clem, Lady Leffler, Karen Marchin, Grace Reynolds, Hilton Shamling, Kendall Steiden, Carol Stout, and Samuel Vance. Unfortunately, not all of them could be present here, but still congratulations to our outstanding juniors. Our next presenter is Dr. Bruce Gill.
The department would like to take this opportunity to recognize its outstanding seniors. The recipients are history majors or social studies teaching majors concentrating in history with an overall GPA of 3.75 and an outstanding record in history. Again, the selection is based primarily, but not exclusively, on the student's total grade point average. This year's outstanding seniors are, this is going to be a little tricky, because I'm reading them off. Dr. Felker Cantor is our assistant chair. Maybe you can award the certificate.
You want me to read the names and you can?
That's fine. Never buy the mistaken notion that historians lack humor.
All right, so this year's outstanding seniors are first Samuel Adams. Cyrus Allen. Alexa Arkenberg. Seems to all have senioritis. Madison Bartu. Olivia Bauman. Thomas Kaufman. Kayla Combs. Kathleen Donahoe. Megan Halcombe. Griffin Hamilton. Tegan Hayes. Maggie Jones. Leah Kahana. Austin Keller. Brenna Large. Emily Loney.
Maybe you should switch that.
Sky Mendez. Zoe Olesker. Katrina Partlow. McKenna Poindexter. Ellie Pressler. Kayla Riddell. Samuel Stepp. And Jason Thomas. He has an excuse, he's student teaching, so he's probably not around. And our next presenter is Bruce Gillhead.
It was with great pride that I introduced this year's senior speaker, Kathleen Donahoe. Kathleen is a history major with minors in American Sign Language, Deaf Studies, and Fashion. That is a great combination. She has fulfilled many important roles at Ball State and Minnetrista, and as an undergraduate teaching fellow in the history department. Among her many honors, she earned an International Baccalaureate High School Diploma and was a recipient of the Lawrence Mabel Hearst Scholarship in 2022. As announced earlier, her presentation entitled Hoosier Homespun, the Gender Division of Textile Production Labor in Early 19th Century Indiana, won the Best Undergraduate Paper Award at our annual Student History Conference. I should also add, she got me out of a tough spot once. I needed to find a student who was willing to serve on the Dean Student Advisory Council. Yeah. The Dean's Student Advisory. And Kathleen was recommended to me, and I jumped at that. And I asked her, and she said she'd be thrilled. So now, that's another thing in her favor. Let us please welcome Kathleen Down.
Thank you. So I know we have been here for a while, and I'm sure you all are ready to get on to the rest of your Sunday afternoon, so I will try to keep this short and sweet. I've been asked to give a speech reflecting on my time in the history department and as a student here at Ball State. And rather than trying to present any kind of grand life philosophy, I thought I would share 10 pieces of advice I would give my freshman year self. 1, talk in class. I know it sounds scary, but just raise your hand and participate. For one thing, you will remember the material better, and for another, as you will very quickly learn, watching a professor stand and stare out at a silent classroom, waiting for anyone to answer, is infinitely more awkward than just learning to speak in public. And also, if you are confused about something, chances are other people are also confused. Someone has to ask the question, and it might as well be you. 2, sit next to that person in your class who you've been thinking, they seem cool. Some of my best friends now are people who I took a chance and struck up a conversation with one day. You never know which of your now acquaintances will someday be someone very important to you. Number 3, try things you thought you'd never try. If you told me when I was 16 that someday I would model in a fashion show or regularly work with 200-year-old artifacts, I probably wouldn't believe you. As a matter of fact, I hadn't even considered majoring in history until I had been attending Ball State about 2 years. And in college, you are surrounded by opportunities to try new things, and some of those may become lifelong passions, and others may be more, not for me. But if you stop yourself from trying something because you think you're not the type of person who does that thing, you will miss out on a lot. 4, take classes with weird names. If you get a chance, if it fits in your schedule and there's some class with a name that you're like, I'm not even sure I know what that class is gonna be about, take it. My sophomore year, I took a class named Thor, Ragnarok, and the End of the World. And it was one of the most fascinating classes I've ever taken. Those classes often end up being the ones that broaden your perspectives in ways you don't expect and introduce you to new ideas you haven't heard of before. And sometimes can even send your life in a new direction. I research textiles now. I learned to weave while I was taking that Thor class. 5, don't be aloof. There is nothing to be gained from acting like you are too cool to care. Some of the coolest, most interesting opportunities you will get will come from caring loudly and unapologetically. 6, life is more fun when you stop being self-conscious. Anyone here who has been in a class with me, you may not know my name or face, but you have probably seen me knitting. I use knitting here just as one concrete example. I enjoy knitting, and I found over the years, for whatever reason, I can focus on and retain a lecture better if I'm knitting than if I'm just sitting still taking notes. And I used to feel really self-conscious about bringing my knitting to class. I didn't like the way it drew attention to me. I didn't like how it made me be the girl who knits in class. But eventually I got to a point where it didn't bother me anymore. It is what it is. People are going to think what they're going to think, and you don't have control over that. being self-conscious is a very hard habit to unlearn, but letting go of that worry of what everyone else is thinking all the time will be such a weight off your shoulders. 7, be who you are, not who you think people want you to be. With this one, I know I'm verging dangerously close to inspirational poster territory, but some things are corny and overdone because they're true. You could spend your whole life trying to figure out who it is that other people want you to be and trying to be that person, but you can't read minds and you can't please everyone. There is such a freedom in letting go of that drive to be who you're supposed to be and to start just being yourself. My next point in some ways is a continuation of this one, and that is 8. There are people out there who are your people. We live in a big world with a lot of people in it. You may feel scared right now to be yourself fully because there's that worry that people around you might not like who that is. But there are people out there who will celebrate you exactly as you are. And the best way to find those people is to start being authentically yourself, and you will attract the type of people who want to be around the authentic you. Back to something a little less serious. 9, find a signature study spot. Personally, I'm partial to the Duncan on Tillotson, and the booths on the first floor of Bracken past printers. And of course, it's only because I'm now graduating that I am willing to share those secrets. But in all seriousness, having a place or places that feel comfortable and special to you can be very helpful, especially when homework or projects or just life in general get chaotic. Lastly, 10, you can do hard things. You are capable of more than you think you are. And there will be things that seem like insurmountable challenges. Writing my thesis last fall, at the start of the semester, I was feeling like, how am I supposed to do this by December? But I did. And all of us in that class, we all did. And there will be so many moments like that, big and small, that one day you will look back on and think, why did I ever doubt myself? And along with that, there will be times that you feel like you're in over your head, but there will always be people willing to be your life preserver if you're brave enough to ask for help. And I'm not just talking to my fellow students when I say this. Everyone in this room, no matter your age or stage of life, it can be helpful to hear a reminder. You are capable of so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we have a recognition for you. Thank you very much. And can we give Kathleen a hand? Our last presenter here today will be Dr. Ingram. But after Dr. Ingram speaks, I'm going to exercise a bit of privilege, moderated privilege, I guess. And so I will be coming back shortly after Ken gives his remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Gilhood. This brings the formal part of our ceremony to a close. However, before we adjourn, I would like to thank the parents, the partners, and the friends of all of our students. It was your support, emotional, intellectual, and financial, that allowed these students to achieve so much. You deserve our gratitude. Please join me in thanking all of the supportive and before I finish here and before Dr. Gilhood comes back, I'm going to exercise my privilege as the director just for a minute. And what I want to say is I talked about this last year at this ceremony, and this is something that has made a profound, has had a profound effect on me. The people that we've honored here today, and indeed all of our students in history and in Ball State, have essentially reinvented education. Let's remember that in their early years of college, and for many of them in high school, they had to figure out how to assist their teachers in educating themselves in the midst of a global pandemic. They've done things we've never had to do. And if there's no possible way that I can express how proud I am of students making their way, navigating their way through that ordeal. I'm so proud of you, and you're all my heroes. So thank you very much. Okay, now thank you all for attending our 2024 honors ceremony. We professors look forward to seeing many of our younger students again next year and hearing about the triumphs of our graduating seniors as they move on to the next stage in life. Please do keep in touch. Have a wonderful afternoon. Please enjoy the refreshments after Dr. Gilhood finishes speaking. Thank you.
Yes, let me just say this. The two individuals that you see on the screens here are Dr. John Barber and Dr. David Kamens. These are two emeriti faculty, previous colleagues of ours, and some of them still colleagues, who passed away last September. We want to bring that to your attention because these are people that were instrumental in so much of what the history department was doing over the years. Dr. Barber taught our large group classes. He taught a general education course that was really essential to students here. He was a major in Russian history, or excuse me, not a major. Well, he was a major too. He was a specialist in Russian history, and just a tremendous person to have in our department at that time, given his leadership on so many things. Dr. David Kamens specialized in colonial and early America. He passed away literally one day after Dr. Barber did last September. And David likewise was an outstanding teacher, an outstanding colleague. He came to Ball State in the 70s and then left Ball State. He was from California. He left Ball State to return to California to go into business. He then decided that the business world was not for him and wanted to come back here to Ball State. We did not have a position in his field, unfortunately, for him to apply for, but he became an academic advisor and served as an academic advisor for many, many years and served, I think, literally thousands of students as well. So I'd like to bring Dr. Barber and Dr. Kamens to your attention because they very much are in our hearts and minds as we go forward as historians here at Ball State. Finally, last year I was sitting back there where our JV is right now, and our ceremony was just winding down. Actually, it was over. And Dan Ingram came to me and said that next year is going to be my last year, meaning 23-24. And he has wonderful reasons for doing that. He and his wife Stacy are building a home. It's almost done in Holland, Michigan, a place where I was an undergrad for 3 years. I should say that and then confess to more than a little bit of envy that he's leaving us. But we're thrilled that he is. Now, we don't give certificates to faculty at this presentation. So in lieu of a certificate, I have this book, A Revolutionary Friendship, Washington, Jefferson, and the American Republic, which was just published. It's in his field. And our colleagues here have signed this for him, and we'd like to recognize Dan for his 14 years, including emceeing this ceremony over that span of time. Dan? And now for those refreshments. Thank you very much for coming, and have a wonderful spring and summer. We're adjourned.